Hey everyone, Michael here. Today we're going to do a walkthrough on how to create Lego models and import them into Blender for whatever rendering purposes you guys want to be using. Today we're going to be using blender.org and we're going to be using Eevee. However, it doesn't really matter which engine you want to use at the end of the day. The steps today are just going to cover how to create a mesh and bring it into Blender with the correct colors assigned so that you can go ahead and go from there to create your own lighting, your own setup, your own animations and such. So the programs today we're going to be using is of course Blender. You can find that at blender.org, and we're going to be using Blender 2.8 today. The other program we're going to be using today is Brinklink. You can go to their website and they have a program called Studio 2.0. And this is the program we're going to be using to create the Lego meshes, and then we're going to export that as a collada file into Blender. And the sweet spot about that is that we can assign all the colors we need. We can clean up the mesh a little bit before we even get to Blender so that we're not wasting too much time. The other really great part that I like to use Studio 2.0 for is the fact that it can be used offline and they save and update the file, the program often. So that's really great if I want to do something on the road and then I can come back home and bring it in and import it into Blender and work from abroad. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I already have a new file opened up here, and I'm just going to cover a couple of the quick tips, and then I'll let you make the mesh yourself in your own time. You can bring in any mesh you want, and you'll notice right away we have right here this little white square that you can select that and choose what colors you want to use, and that will bring everything you in from the library that you want at that color you want. Let's say you've already placed an object and you want to change the color on it. All you do is select the object, go up here to the right and choose this section to change your colors. And then on top of that, you have content colors. This is your history of what all the files inside are using. So let's say I want to select this color. Instead of just going in and doing this every single time, I can just click on it, click on the color I want to replace it with, or I can use the keyboard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and change it out. Now it will remove the colors that you're if it's the only color in there, it'll remove all the other ones, so just be aware of that. The other tip I want to show you guys is if you go to the edit mode, go to preferences, in the shortcuts, we can go to brick control, move left, right, forward, and backwards. I don't believe it's already assigned when you download the program, so make sure you get those assigned. I have them assigned to WASD, and what that will allow you to do is grab the brick you want and rotate it, or not rotate it, but move it around, and that gets really important when you get towards the end of your file where you're trying to place one brick on top of the other. Sometimes it's just easier to use it with your keyboard instead of using the mouse. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close this file out. I already have made a file with the parts I'm going to use for today. Some really important notes here is you do not want a big mesh. You don't want a big project put together. You want to start with a little small simple scene. Understand how to use all this and then move forward as it gets the mesh is very detailed and we need to clean it up inside Blender. And it's a lot easier to do it here and now and just have the small pieces and bring them in bit by bit and clean them up in Blender than it is to bring in an entire file. It uses a lot of RAM, I find, bringing it in this method, and so you want to be aware of that as well. So just keep an eye on your task manager, make sure you're not going too far close to that edge where files could start crashing. And of course, it's always a great idea to make sure that you're saving often so that you don't lose your work. Alright, so let's get started. We have the mesh built, we have it all set up, and we're going to just go to File, Export As, Collada, and I already have it saved here, Table Flip. Do you wish to replace it? We're going to go ahead and replace it since I've already drawn the mesh up. Alright, so that's it for Studio. Let's go ahead and switch over to Blender. Alright, so here's Blender. Simple scene already built. And we're going to go ahead and clear all that stuff out. And we're going to go File, Import, Collada. And we're going to go ahead and find that file. And there it is, Table Flip. This is a small scene, not too big, so it'll only take a couple seconds here to bring it in. But if you're getting something where it's bigger, you're going to really suffer on that time frame. Alright, so there's the file in all of its glory. You'll notice everything is parented together, and that's not great. We're going to go ahead and select the... we're not going to touch anything just yet. Before we remove the parents on everything, we're first going to clean the mesh up. This is a crucial step to saving yourself a lot of hassle down the road. If you are trying to create an explosion where all the bricks are separating, you're going to have to not merge the mesh. But basically what we're going to get to here is we're going to clean the mesh up, and then we're going to merge the mesh. So I'm just going to grab one of these objects here, let's say the Lego icon here, and you'll notice if I hit tab, all the Lego bricks in the entire mesh get selected, and there's quite a few of them. So we're going to just grab one of those objects, and we're going to go ahead and start editing here. We're going to clean the mesh up, removing all the double vertices that are not adding or contributing to the quality of the mesh. So we're just going to go up to here to mesh, go to cleanup, merge by distance, and down here is a little drop down. We're going to go ahead and select 0.05. I find that works best for the Lego icon logo, and we're just going to do that. Then Control F. We're going to go from tris to quads, and that'll clean it up just a little bit further. From there, we're going to go, and I'm only going to do this to a couple of the bricks here, the ones that repeat the most often, and then we'll apply the same cleanup to all the mesh all at once at the end as well. But doing it to the bricks that apply the most often first really helps speed up the cleanup down the road, as once we merge everything into one mesh, which is what's going to ultimately happen, um, it will slow down tremendously. So we'll go ahead, go in there, and again, mesh, cleanup, merge by distance, and 0.05 works for the logo because it's pretty high, like all the vertices are pretty close to each other. But for this simple block, 0.1 is fine, and that will clean up the mesh just enough for us. And then again, tris to quads help clean that mesh up just a little bit more. Not a big difference, but every little bit helps. Alright, so I've cleaned up two of the biggest issues, which is the Lego logo and this tile, which repeats the most. Select everything. I'm going to do Alt P. That clears parents, clear, and keep transformation is the one we're going to use for today. And then I'm just going to select one of these objects here, and then Shift J, and that merges them all. You'll notice right away it's pretty slow, and we're going to go ahead and just separate them into their own separate objects. If let's go ahead and take a step back here. If you're like, well, I can just separate. One second. Alright, you're already noticing probably by now that the file is already getting pretty slow. Here we go. So, all these are objects, right? And if you're like, well, I just want to go to wireframe and select just a couple here and join them, you'll instantly notice that they're still linked. Even though they're not parented anymore, they're still linked, and we just made a huge mess here. So let's go back, and we're just going to select one of these objects again and control them all, join them all. There we go. Alright, so they're all now joined together. We're going to go to edit mode, deselect everything, and we're in wireframe, and I'm just going to make sure I'm on faces, and then I'm just going to select, say, a quarter here and separate those out. And it's important to separate before you do even more cleanup, as each step that we try to do, if you try to apply it to all the mesh at once, it will just slowly do it. Whereas if we do it, if we subdivide the model for Blender, essentially is what we're doing here, then we'll get a faster cleanup as we're going along. Alright, so the mesh is now separated. We'll go back to solid mode here again. And I'll just grab one of these objects, select all the mesh, and again, we're just going to repeat the same two steps we did earlier. Merge by distance, and I'm going to just do 0.05 as we now have the Lego logo in there, and so I don't want to accidentally simplify it further than what I had done earlier. And then Control F tris to quads, and that will just really clean up the mesh there. And we'll repeat the steps for the rest of the scene. Mesh, clean up, merge by distance, and then tries to quads. And already I'm noticing on my end a significant improvement as I'm clearing each of these up and removing all of that excess vertices that are not adding any quality to the project. Again, we're merging, so a lot of these files are, or a lot of these objects are now going to have a vertex that just might overlap, so they now touch each other. So you're going to probably, if you're trying to do an explosion, for instance, where each of the bricks are separating, you're going to have to find a better method than what I'm showing today. But for today, this is the static part of the project. Nothing's going to separate, and if something does separate, then I might just go in and do it by hand instead. Clean up, merge by distance, tries to quads. All right. So that's that, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab one of these here, and let's see here. What do we want to do next? All right, so let's just go ahead and just do a brief overview of materials and what I use. Um, I'm just going to assign this to solid white. This is a material node setup I've built for doing the Lego materials. This works for Eevee again. However, this is totally up to you how you want to do it from your end, and I'll just hold over here for just a few seconds and let you capture that. So all it is, um, it's a diffuse and glossy shader thrown into a mix. We're using a sine and multiply a sine with layer weight and Fresnels of 1.45, and that will give us the how much we want to mix these two. And then a bump map is assigned using a thumbs, which is just fingerprints, a little bit of dirt and grime, and that'll look pretty good on the material. So the trick here is, you might have noticed if we go here into all the materials, is all the different colors in that mesh uh, have been assigned a name already. And this is really great because with stud.io, the way they do handle the materials when they output the collada is they assign them names. So solid white is solid white, solid dark gray, solid black, so on and so forth. And I actually found online this great image that I'll supply in the description below, which has all the colors and all the names of them. So it makes it really easy. Black, it's not actual black, it's just a near black. Dark bluish gray is not just gray. And basically, this is very close to the colors that Lego likes to use, and this is how I make sure that all my meshes are using the correct colors, and that every project I do, I'm using the same colors from project to project and not just making something up halfway through. And so I'll provide that in the description for you guys, and as well as probably an image of the material node I'm using. And so all I have to do is, if I want to change the color, I don't want this to be white, I'll make a new version of it. I'll call it solid red, let's say. And I'll take that diffuse and go find red and just replace it. And this way I get the correct colors, and when I want to render something out, it'll come out as red. And let's see, do I have enough? So again, this is Eevee. I don't have any real lights assigned. There's a spotlight around here somewhere, but it's already assigned to red. And if I was to go to solid black, I'm gonna go make it white, and then I'm gonna make it a new user again. And this is gonna become the black. So there's that, and there's that. And so it'll come out to the correct colors, so on and so forth. And this is the material node setup I use for both Eevee and Cycles. Um, For glass, you're going to have to go find another guide about how to do glass in Eevee, as it doesn't work the same between the two, unfortunately. I hope they resolve that one day, but for now. And then the other thing is, if you want to create a simpler setup, go ahead, and that's basically it for today. This will get you started on bringing mesh. Uh, Lego minifigures, unfortunately, you're just going to have to build your own uh, frame. You can with stud.io, you can build your own minifigures. However, to animate them by hand, that's going to take a little bit more work. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys had fun and thanks for watching.